A British court, guys, in London has officially sentenced a truck driver to prison because he was caught smuggling £7 million, which is $9.4 million worth of a substance, an illegal substance, which is basically coke, in a shipment of Skims.
There have been reports, that you and Kim don't really talk at the moment. She's distancing herself from you because of the stuff you've been saying was getting controversy. Is that true?
She's being influenced. But I guarantee you what's not finna happen, we not finna see her in one of them John Legend Christmas sweaters no time soon.
But do you talk to her? Are you still in touch with her?
Wait a second, don't you think it's like funny to like make a joke out of stuff sometimes? Don't you think like God has a sense of humor?
I don't support or villainize Kanye because I don't understand what it is we want from him.
They blame it on the truck driver and said that Kim had no knowledge of any of this. Now what if the people just backdoor her and was just doing...
A truck arrives at the port of Harwich, England, carrying 28 pallets of shapewear. At first, it appears to be a routine shipment. But when border officers scan the trailer with X-ray equipment, something near the rear doors raises suspicion that a closer inspection reveals far more than clothing. Hidden inside a specially constructed compartment are 90 individually wrapped bundles of narcotics with an estimated street value approaching £10 million. The pallets are branded with the name Skims, the billion-dollar company founded by Kim Kardashian. Authorities ultimately determined that neither Kardashian nor the company was involved. The driver accepts responsibility and is later sentenced to 13 years in prison, while no charges are brought against Skims or its founder. Yet the story takes on a different dimension as the case gains attention. Around the same time, Kanye West, Kim Kardashian's former husband, continues making headlines with a series of controversial and often cryptic statements. Some of his remarks, dismissed by many as erratic, have prompted others to revisit a provocative question: what, if anything, did Kanye West witness from the inside that the public has never fully understood?
Had a lot of business ventures before Skims. Still has a bunch of other business ventures, but the Kardashians and Jenners have tried all sorts of stuff. They've been trying to break into skincare for a long time and do all sorts of stuff. So this is definitely the family's biggest hit, and it's definitely Kim's. The vast majority of her net worth is definitely going to be in Skims. So like I said, she owns around a third of the company, and it's the vast majority of her wealth.
Let's talk about that a little more because the family, Kim included, has had their hand in a host of different businesses. Aside from reality TV, she worked on a mobile game, fragrance line, beauty line, amongst other things, but Skims is the one that really seems to have taken off into a league of its own. So can you run us through the history of the company and any highlights that you found interesting?
She co-founded this company in 2018 with a couple entrepreneurs, Emma Greed and this guy Jens Greed, who is the CEO now. And they really found an interesting, niche, which is, shapewear sort of with Kim's vibe, and Kim's aesthetic. And so, over the years, it's sort of been just this slow building, but sort of runaway success. It's definitely the most successful business of the Kardashian-Jenner family. And, as she's sort of trying to figure out, she's had a couple beauty businesses. She had KKW Beauty. She shut that down, turned that into Skin by Kim's. Shut that down. She sort of reformulated stuff a bunch of times and tried to figure out what's right. And all while doing that, Skims has kind of just continued to be, a success. And so they've been raising more and more money and at higher valuations.
And to your point you made earlier that this is Kim's vibe, it really seems like it is. It has a really cool vibe. There's smart partnerships, like with the Olympics. In their marketing campaigns, those are also very strategic. They pick celebrities or athletes or pop stars that really meet the moment at exactly that moment. It seems to have paid off for them, obviously, now that the company is valued at $5 billion. Has Kim said exactly what she envisions the future of the company to be, fresh off this really successful fundraising round?
Yeah, it's really interesting because they started out as a direct-to-consumer, online-only brand, and then they've sort of moved into brick and mortar retail, and building physical stores. And they've got 18 of them around the US, a couple more in Mexico. And not just, they built a big flagship in New York City, but, they're, I think, in Minnesota, all throughout the United States. And they're using this money that they raised to build even more brick and mortar stores. And so at a time where, all this talk for long time now of, companies going online and getting rid of their stores. They have this vision for, doing a lot more brick and mortar. And so they said that within a few years, they're hoping that it's predominantly a physical retail brand.
By 2025, Forbes estimated Kim Kardashian's net worth at approximately $1.9 billion. Skims alone had reached a valuation of $5 billion following a $225 million funding round. Beyond shapewear, her business portfolio includes a beauty brand, the private equity firm SKKY Partners, a television empire that has remained relevant for nearly 2 decades, and a social media presence so influential that major brands are willing to pay heavily for access to its audience. Her success was not the result of luck. It was built through calculated business decisions and a keen understanding of branding, media, and consumer culture. From navigating the transition from KKW Beauty to SKKN, to restructuring her ventures and expanding the Skims ecosystem, Kardashian has repeatedly demonstrated an ability to adapt to changing markets and public tastes. Equally notable is her ability to remain culturally relevant through controversies, shifting trends, and media cycles that might have ended the careers of others. Whatever one's opinion of her, her longevity and business acumen are difficult to ignore. Credit is due for the strategic discipline and consistency that helped turn a celebrity platform into a multi-billion-dollar.
Kim Kardashian's a co-founder and the chief creative officer of Skims. How hands-on is she?
Yeah, I mean, she calls it her day job, and I think that's probably true. She talks about how she's super involved in, all of the product, all of the design, and then also all of the marketing, which, makes sense if you have a company, where Kim Kardashian is involved. I think you probably want her in charge of the marketing.
Large empires cast long shadows. The bigger a company becomes, the greater its exposure to risks beyond its direct control. Supply chains grow increasingly complex. Logistics operations rely on layers of contractors, freight handlers, and third-party vendors that executives may never personally meet or vet. A brand's name can end up on trucks crossing international borders, moving through ports thousands of miles away, operated by people with no direct connection to the company itself. The Skims shipment incident serves as a case study in that kind of vulnerability. Whether the brand was involved or not, the story highlighted how easily a company's name can become linked to events occurring deep within its supply chain. For some observers, it also reopened questions and conversations that had been lingering in the background for years. If you followed Kanye West's public statements over the past several years, the pattern is familiar. A provocative social media post. A controversial interview. A claim that sparks widespread debate. Then a deletion, a clarification, or a denial, followed by another cycle of headlines and reactions. Keeping track of it all can be difficult. Yet amid the noise, certain allegations and observations continue to resurface. Rather than dismissing every claim outright because of the messenger's credibility issues, some argue that the specific claims themselves deserve to be examined on their own merits.
Let's look at these contracts. Let's make it not be a known fact that the music industry is treacherous. Let's make it, because my kids do music. I don't want them to step into a treacherous place. I want it to be better for them than it was for me. So I want us to sit down and come together and really work on that. Would that make sense to you, Pierce?
You know what, Ye? If you simply said that in your tweet, I don't think there would have been any problem. And I'm very, very pleased, actually, that we've got to a place where you felt able to say that. And I think it was sincere. And
but we still have a problem. That's my point.
No, I get it. But what you've now done, you've now explained the context of the problem. And you also issued a sincere apology to people who were rightly offended by the way you phrased what you said. So I think that's a good place to finish the interview. And I'm very glad you got there.
Okay, but it's not finished.
I understand.
The idea is not finished.
I understand.
That there's still a problem.
I understand. No one's going to be in any doubt there's a problem. And by the way, I'm sure there is. I'm sure that a lot of the contracts in the music business are rigged against people like artists like yourself. I'm sure of it. And it's always been the case. From Elvis onwards. So I get
Pierce,
it.
would you help me and my people? Would you help me and my athletes? I got so many athletes that go to my school that are like all the guys that are on Donda are headed to the NBA, right? Could you help me? Could you help us make these contracts better for our people by calling attention, by just allowing me on your platform, right? And let's look at some of the things and point these things out. Could we work together on
Absolutely
that?
Happy to, very happy to do that.
Yeah.
Very happy to do that. I think we should talk more often.
All right.
It's taken a long time to get here. I've thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. It's been 2 hours. It's been free rolling. It's been occasionally challenging, but we've got to a place where I think it's a good place, and I've really enjoyed it. So thank you very much indeed, Ye, for sparing me the time.
Yeah. You know, I'm gonna feel like I lost my stone I was holding.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I had to give it up to God. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yes.
You know, you're gonna be bragging. You're gonna be bragging at dinner tonight. Like, yo, I talked to Ye. No one could do it. No one could do it. I did it. And you know, I'm giving you this, and I'm gonna pray that you, as a fellow believer in Christ, will help me to expose all the wrong that's still currently happening to my people, specifically in the entertainment industry.
In 2024, a former member of Kanye West's team filed a lawsuit in Los Angeles that contained several notable allegations. According to the filing, West had allegedly directed the individual to investigate members of the Kardashian family over suspected connections to criminal organizations. The lawsuit claimed that these instructions came directly from West himself. On its own, another lawsuit involving Kanye West might not have attracted much attention. Legal disputes have become a recurring feature of his public life. What made this filing stand out, however, was that it extended beyond allegations about West's personal conduct and into questions about what he allegedly believed, and what he was reportedly attempting to uncover. Around the same period, West intensified a series of social media posts and public statements targeting Kim Kardashian and her family. In those statements, he accused them of involvement in networks that exploit children and young people. He also connected these concerns to disputes over their daughter, North West, including a reported incident in which he invited Andrew and Tristan Tate to meet with her, an encounter that Kim Kardashian allegedly brought to an abrupt end. The accusations generated significant media attention and controversy. However, despite their seriousness, no publicly available evidence emerged to substantiate the claims, and they were widely viewed by commentators and news outlets as unverified allegations. Even so, West continued to repeat variations of the same accusations, ensuring that the controversy remained in the public conversation.
He's doing this to himself.
But it affects my kids.
Of course it does. That's the tragic part of the whole story.
It's just like I still feel the need to not talk about it and protect it for my kids, and I always will feel that way, but God, if people knew, I just would never do that to my kids. It just is really crazy.
The hardest feeling to watch someone you really loved and you have a family with just be so different than who you knew. I mean, imagine trying to explain this to a 9-year-old at this point, North, who I'm sure is hearing something, and maybe she won't say it. That's what breaks my heart.
She actually doesn't know. And that's what's so crazy.
Really?
Is when stuff is said, it's a chain to my whole household. No TV, only Apple TV. I can't risk Access Hollywood coming
or a
up
news
next,
story
or anything on the news.
On September 5, 2025, a truck disembarked from a ferry arriving from the Netherlands carrying 28 pallets of Scheme's merchandise. Investigators later confirmed that the cargo itself consisted of legitimate products moving through authorized commercial channels. The driver, a Polish national identified as Jakub Jan Konkel, might have passed through unnoticed had border force officers not conducted an X-ray inspection. The scan revealed unusual structural anomalies, not within the shipment itself, but inside the rear doors of the trailer. A subsequent search uncovered a concealed compartment that had been specially built into the vehicle. Hidden inside were 90 brick-sized packages containing a controlled substance. Authorities estimated the street value of the seizure at between £8.4 million and £9.6 million, depending on the valuation method used. As investigators reconstructed the vehicle's journey, GPS and travel records revealed a previously unexplained 16-minute stop that did not appear in any official transport logs. Prosecutors argued that this was the point at which the concealed compartment was loaded. Conkle initially denied knowledge of the operation. However, according to court proceedings, he later admitted that he had agreed to transport the shipment in exchange for €4,500. Following his conviction, he was sentenced at Chelmsford Crown Court to 13 years and 6 months in prison. Importantly, investigators found no evidence linking schemes or its ownership to the concealed narcotics, and the legitimate merchandise remained separate from the hidden compartment used in the smuggling operation.
A British court, guys, in London has officially sentenced a truck driver to prison because he was caught smuggling £7 million, which is $9.4 million, worth of a substance, an illegal substance, which is basically coke, in a shipment of Skims. Now, it is interesting that Kim is not being dragged into this court case, because you would have thought so, but you're telling me that £7 million, $9.9 million worth of coke was all packaged neatly into Skim products, and then this particular person was caught. They always seem to be a close radar to everything. They're always at the wrong place at the wrong time, but it's not them at the wrong place at the wrong time. It's somebody that's basically in some kind of third-degree connection. Now, if you're going to transport substances and get paid for it, the con of this is that if you get caught, only you're going to go down. Unless, you sign some plea deal and etc., because they want to get the people on top, whatever, which I don't think is ever going to happen to the Kardashian clan. But the con of doing all of that is that you're going to go down if you get caught, nobody else, because they don't give a damn about anybody else simply but you. This is how, I'm not saying that Skims is not successful. I think that her brands are definitely successful and they are making a lot of money. But this is how you can move a lot of money, by transporting a lot of substances. Drug trafficking is basically what they call it. And this has gotten Skims written all over it, literally. You can see in the packaging here, it's also packaged so well. You're really going to tell me that the substances were just put into Skims without anybody knowledge higher up at Skims? This is so bad for the brand. And the article is now everywhere. And I definitely believe that Kim and the clan are 100% affiliated to the transportation of these substances. JP Morgan, for goodness sake, have gone through the ringer for what they've basically been accused of when it comes to transporting so many substances. People think that the transportation of these illegal substances only happens with minuscule companies, minuscule agencies, minuscule mafias, gangsters, people on the road. No, it happens high up in the corporate world. That's why you have a lot of corporate people who work there taking all of this stuff. It transports massively amongst huge companies, and I think that Skims is possibly one of them. The entities and the companies that the Kardashians create, which is so many at this point, every single damn year there's something else opening up. You're really going to sit here and tell me that these companies are only going to be selling clothes? That is the only motive. Whatever they're selling is only what they're selling, and that's it. They're not actually sitting here transporting stuff behind the scenes through stuff to either wash money or create a lot more. You're telling me, hold on, this is a lot of coke that was basically being transported, guys. It wasn't just a random small amount that he was caught with. 90 kilograms. 90 kilograms, 198 pounds. I weigh 80 kilograms, okay? That's like 188 pounds is what I weigh. Like, you're really going to sit here and tell me that amount was sitting in the truck, and that was all lined up within the clothing of Skims? It was all within the clothing. It wasn't as if it was completely separate of the packaging. But the agency, which the National Crime Agency, were very quick to say that, Skims was not involved or connected to this smuggled load. Okay. This was a mistake that went wrong. And that when you have these big companies basically doing this stuff, they probably have some type of leniency where they don't get caught. And here, things just went wrong. This is like a blip in the system. And I think that this is affiliated to Kim's leverage in specific spaces that she is now in, that she couldn't get into anymore because Kanye is not her husband, and Kanye was getting into everything.
In the aftermath of the seizure, Skims issued a statement emphasizing that the company had no knowledge of, or involvement in, the smuggling operation. The brand stated that the driver had no direct relationship with Skims and that the shipment consisted of legitimate merchandise moving through standard commercial channels. British authorities reached a similar conclusion. Investigators did not accuse Kim Kardashian or Skims of any wrongdoing. According to the National Crime Agency, criminal organizations frequently exploit legitimate freight routes and commercial brands as cover for illicit trafficking operations, using established supply chains to avoid suspicion. Even so, the incident inevitably drew Kim Kardashian's name into a controversy she likely would have preferred to avoid. While she was never charged or implicated in the criminal activity, the presence of Skims branded goods in the shipment generated significant public attention. In the weeks after the story became public, additional reports surfaced claiming that Kim Kardashian and Kanye West met privately at a secure location away from cameras and staff. According to anonymous sources cited by media outlets in May 2026, Kardashian was reportedly distressed during the meeting and allegedly expressed concerns that her brand had been deliberately used by unknown parties seeking to damage its reputation. Those reports remain based on unnamed sources describing a private conversation, making independent verification difficult. Nevertheless, the claims attracted attention because they suggested a possibility that extended beyond simple bad luck. If the reports were accurate, Kardashian herself may have viewed the incident as a deliberate exploitation of her brand rather than a random selection by criminal traffickers. Whether that interpretation is correct remains unknown. What is established is that organized criminal networks have a long history of hiding illegal activity behind legitimate businesses and commercial shipments, often without the knowledge of the companies whose names appear on the cargo.
If the P. Diddy file and the Epstein files, the P. Diddy court trial and the Epstein files, which we all read and discussed over here, if you're still naive after that, then I don't know what to tell you. There's so much corruption happening, so many people are involved, and when the going gets tough, everybody wants to be quiet. You ain't gonna get no statement from Kim, you ain't gonna get no statement from Skims, because they're gonna be like, this ain't got to do with us. This ain't got nothing to do with us. You're telling me this man worked independently for a specific group of people and that he was getting paid money from them and therefore he decided to put it in the Skims? 13 years and a half he's gone to prison for. 13 years and a half. Probably will get out on 10 years with good behavior. That's why you're in prison. It ain't looking too good, guys. I do think that Kim's relation to freeing these, prisoners and posting bail for them and wanting to be a hero for them and writing statements for them, she's only allowed to do that. Okay, this pivot that she's made into freeing prisoners, whether they've been illegally put away or not, she's only recently been doing this for the past half a decade because she's been allowed to. People have been allowing her to play this political hero where she can use her money to free these people, because I just don't think, I think it's like a business deal. And at the end package also, there's great PR for her, because I don't think that, Kim can just walk into places and do all of this without it benefiting her, without secret deals basically being made. 8 million euros worth of.
Some voices responding to the Skims controversy framed it in far more conspiratorial terms. Critics argued that the official responses were predictable, suggesting that neither Kim Kardashian nor Skims would publicly acknowledge deeper involvement even if there were broader networks at play. In this view, the driver's conviction was seen as the end of the matter, with others insisting he acted independently and was now serving a lengthy prison sentence that reflected the seriousness of the offense. Others, however, pushed back strongly against that interpretation. They emphasized that there is no publicly verified evidence linking Kim Kardashian or Skims to the smuggling operation, and that law enforcement agencies treated the case as an example of organized criminal groups exploiting legitimate supply chains rather than targeting specific individuals. The discussion soon expanded beyond the incident itself. Some commentators began drawing connections between Kim Kardashian's high-profile criminal justice advocacy, particularly her efforts to support prison reform and clemency cases, and broader claims about influence, access, and public relations. These arguments suggested, without evidence, that her advocacy work might function as part of a wider strategic or reputational ecosystem. However, these claims remain speculative and are not supported by documented findings. At the same time, Kanye West's public commentary continued to shape how parts of the internet interpreted the situation. For years, he has alternated between personal grievances and broader accusations involving institutions, systems, and unnamed networks. That pattern often begins with private disputes, such as custody or family disagreements, before escalating into wider claims about systemic corruption or hidden structures of influence. Observers note that this escalation from personal conflict to sweeping institutional allegations can blur the line between perception and evidence. What may begin as emotional certainty or personal interpretation is sometimes treated by audiences as proof of larger, unverified narratives. In that gap between belief and confirmation, speculation tends to spread quickly, often outpacing the facts available in the public record.
This is not a joke. Kanye West was mentioned in the Epstein files. The Epstein files now coming out, it has just been revealed that Kanye West was mentioned 2 different times in the Epstein files, but in a positive way. Now, the first mention of Kanye West in the Epstein files is when a close friend of Epstein ended up emailing him saying that he was teaching a psychiatry class, with them using Kanye West as a perfect example to show somebody on the bipolar spectrum, but being able to have an amazing flight of ideas. As you can see right here, this is the specific email with it saying, "Did you see Kanye West's soliloquy in the Oval Office with Trump and Jim Brown? I'm using this clip in my talent and creativity class." And then as for Jeffrey Epstein himself, he might have been a massive Kanye West fan, because in an email that he made on May 10th, 2011 to a person, he ended up randomly bringing up Kanye West's song Power, with him saying, "It's interesting that we're talking about power. Have you heard Kanye West's rap song Power? Some funny lyrics that might resonate." Nonetheless though, what do you guys about my entire situation? Kanye West was mentioned in the Epstein files 2 times, but in a very positive way, showing that he is the literal GOAT.
West has, on multiple occasions, made a series of public statements and allegations involving what he refers to as the files, and suggested connections between individuals and broader, unnamed networks. These claims have not been substantiated by verified evidence, but they have circulated widely due to his public profile. At various points, he has also demanded that Kim Kardashian remove their children from Sierra Canyon School, describing it as an environment he believed was influenced by outside systems tied to celebrity culture and control. In other public remarks, he accused Kardashian of involvement in the exploitation of black children, framing it as part of a wider, coordinated structure. These statements have been strongly disputed and have not been supported by credible findings. During their divorce proceedings and afterward, West has also claimed that he was the subject of false accusations, including allegations that he had ordered violence against Kardashian. Separately, he has stated that he instructed or commissioned individuals to investigate her activities, though the specifics and context of those claims remain disputed and unverified. Taken together, these episodes reflect a pattern in which personal disputes and family conflicts are repeatedly reframed by West into broader allegations involving institutions, influence networks, and alleged misconduct, claims that remain highly contested and not established in the public record.
Kanye West responded to Pusha T being on the Epstein files last night during his massive concert in New Mexico. As you guys just saw last night, Kanye West did the unthinkable by responding to Pusha T after he was revealed to be on the Epstein files. And now for those of you guys that are simply confused or don't know what's going on, last night it was officially revealed that Pusha T was in the Epstein files hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein in a young woman. And with all of this coming out, Kanye West seemingly responded to Pusha T being on the Epstein files, with him doing his concert last night where he was performing the song Runaway, and then right when Pusha T's verse came on, he immediately skipped it. And this is leading a lot of people to believe that this was a direct reaction to Pusha T being on the Epstein files, along with Pusha T dissing Kanye West nonstop last year. For example, when he was on interviews saying things like Kanye West isn't a real man. Plus though, when he has my entire situation, Kanye West seemingly threw a shot and responded to Pusha T after he was revealed to be in the Epstein files.
What emerges is a complicated picture of someone who was deeply embedded in that world for nearly a decade, attending high-profile events, interacting with powerful figures, and operating within the same cultural and business ecosystem. Today, he appears to be looking back on it through multiple overlapping lenses: genuine co-parenting conflicts, documented mental health struggles, and widely reported allegations involving anti-Semitic statements cited in lawsuits and by former employees, alongside what he presents as a sincere belief that serious wrongdoing occurred within the circles he once moved in. Separating these strands is not straightforward, but it is necessary. A responsible approach requires distinguishing clearly between what is documented and what remains alleged or unverified. On the documented side are the Skeens shipment incident and the subsequent conviction of the driver involved, as well as statements from UK authorities indicating that Skeens itself was not implicated. There is also Kanye West's extensive legal history, alongside publicly reported claims from former employees regarding his behavior and beliefs. In addition, Kim Kardashian has publicly addressed emotional distress related to West's accusation that she fabricated details of the Paris robbery, which she discussed on camera in December 2025. Beyond that, there are broader interpretations and narratives that circulate online, but these extend beyond what has been independently verified in the public record.
I was laying in bed like, should I wash my face? I'm so tired. I'm in my robe. I need to get up. I need to wash my face. And then 10 minutes later, I was like dozing. And then I heard pounding up the stairs. And I thought it was you and Stephanie drunk. I'm calling to them like, hello, hello, hello. And there's no answer. And then at that moment, when there wasn't an answer, my heart started to get really tense. Like, you know, your stomach just kind of like knots up and you're like, okay, what's going on? What's going on? I knew something wasn't quite right. My door was open like this. And then I saw two guys holding another guy down in police uniforms, but right outside of my bedroom, 5 feet away. So I slid off my bed and picked up my phone and I'm like, I don't know how to call 911 in a different country. And so I like called Pascal, and then the guy came and grabbed the phone for me, threw me on the bed. And I was like, this is it. Then the concierge that I realized was the concierge because he was handcuffed with the key to my room. What I've heard from talking to him afterwards is they said, you know, where's the rapper's wife? Like, let us up to her room, in French. So he ended up being our interpreter. Because I couldn't understand them, they couldn't understand me. Right as I was about to fall asleep, I heard guys running up the stairs. They wanted my ring and my jewelry, so I didn't fight back. I just gave them everything, and they tied me up. They wrapped duct tape over my eyes and my mouth. It was the scariest thing I've ever been through in my entire life, just thinking that, you know, you're about to die. You're just kind of bracing yourself for the moment that they're going to shoot you and kill you. That 10 minutes really changed my whole life.
The robbers escaped with a huge diamond ring worth approximately $4 million. Kim was left, still bound by duct tape and plastic restraints. Eventually, she managed to free herself and make contact with her sister Courtney.
Kim called me screaming that I can't even talk about it. Sorry. She called me and my legs like went out. I remember I like fell to the floor. Kim was really, really shaken up. We just did all the work that she had to do with the police and got out of there. That moment, it's truly the scariest experience. It's like, you can't even describe how scary it is.
Kim, are you okay? Kim?
There are a lot of thoughts running through my head related to that time, and I don't like to watch those movies. Memories are movies in your mind. I like to watch the happy ones. I don't search for the bad.
In the aftermath of Kim's nightmare in Paris, there were skeptics who suspected the robbery was a hoax.
People like Howard Stern said that I should go to jail if this is fake.
Some people thought that she was flaunting it.
You cannot display your wealth and then be surprised that some people want to share it with you.
She was all over social media wearing millions of dollars of jewels, but this wasn't a joke. This was a terrifying, life-changing moment.
3 months after the robbery, French police arrested 17 suspects believed to be connected to the crime. 10 of those suspects were later indicted.
It makes me so upset to think about it, but like either they're gonna shoot me in the back, or if I make it and they don't, there's no way out.
Is not documented is any connection between Kim Kardashian personally and organized criminal activity. There is also no verified evidence linking the Kardashian family to the kinds of networks described in Kanye West's public claims, nor is there independent confirmation that any investigations he allegedly commissioned uncovered actionable findings. This distinction matters, particularly in how information spreads online. Large platforms, especially social media and some video-based channels, have a clear incentive to blur the line between verified events and unverified allegations. The Skims shipment incident is real, and Kanye West's statements are real in the sense that they were publicly made. However, presenting them side by side without careful separation of fact and claim can create implied connections that do not actually exist. Once repeated enough times, narratives can detach from their original sources. The result is that audiences remember the allegation, not the evidentiary context in which it appeared. The Skims incident itself, when examined independently, highlights something more grounded: the vulnerability of major global brands whose supply chains move through complex international freight networks. Legitimate goods can be used as cover in criminal operations without the knowledge of the companies involved. Stepping back, this also reflects a broader cultural moment. Public trust in institutions, celebrities, and mainstream narratives is significantly strained. Many people are more inclined than before to assume that visible narratives conceal deeper, less transparent realities. That skepticism is not entirely unfounded. There are well-documented cases in which powerful individuals and institutions have abused influence or avoided accountability. However, that same environment also increases susceptibility to claims that are not substantiated. When public sentiment already leans toward distrust, even loosely connected facts, or a single real incident, can be used to support much larger conclusions that the evidence does not actually justify. Over time, repetition can make implication feel like confirmation, even when the underlying connection has not been demonstrated.
You know, Kanye's name was mentioned the day before that, when the witness, Jane, was telling a story in which Puff had, I think he had attacked her at one time. He got mad and got upset with her. I think he may have put her in a chokehold or something. When he found out that she went to one of the freak-offs, but they said that it was a rapper who was married, and everybody, all the information that came out, it was pointing to Kanye West. And then it so happened the next day he comes up there. This is the same guy that got on, and I don't want to blow nobody else's platforms, that got on Drink Champs about a year or so ago before Diddy was arrested, talking about Diddy was a fed. You understand? F Diddy and all this other stuff like that. And then he talked all kind of crazy about Diddy. And that's how these dudes in this industry do, man. They ain't got no loyalty to themselves, bro. So by him going on there, and now they say him and Diddy made amends and stuff like that. Remember I think he did a t-shirt, a shirt or something to say free Puff and all this other stuff. So Kanye is on he's looking for the attention, and for him to be mentioned in the trial, and they didn't let it go through because the reason they didn't let it go through is because they said it wasn't pertinent to the charges that Puff was facing. So what happened, Jane went to Vegas and she was invited by allegedly Kanye West and his wife, them and everything like that. And they went to plays, they went to show, they went out to eat and everything. And then later on that night, they went to a hotel room. Whereas there's some other couples in there too, and some other people. And there wasn't a freak off, but it was one of the guys who does the freak off with her there. And they were all sitting around watching and drinking while this guy was having with another worker or whatever like that. And while all them just watching him have stuff. I guess it's some rich people industry that they do. But they were just sitting around watching this dude have a live section right there in front of them. You know what I'm saying? So she started talking about that incident in court. And that's how Kanye West's name came up. And which they didn't say his name, but they said his name because it was an objection done. You know how they do objection rule, all this other stuff like that. So they said it was a rapper who's married. They gave a description of it, and it pointed straight to Kanye. And then it so happened the next day he goes up in the courtroom with Diddy and them son. That's just crazy, bro. It seems like that to me, if Kanye West is paying workers to have in front of him and his friends, ain't that trafficking?
Kanye West occupied a position of unusual proximity to a world most people will never directly access. He was present within its inner circles, its marriages, friendships, business relationships, and professional alliances, giving him a perspective shaped by lived experience rather than observation from the outside. Whether his public statements reflect genuine insights into things he witnessed, the effects of long-standing personal and psychological strain, or some complex combination of both is ultimately difficult to determine with certainty. What is easier to observe is how his words land in a broader environment already primed for suspicion and distrust. In that context, even unverified claims can spread quickly and take on added weight. That combination, high visibility, emotional intensity, and an audience predisposed to assume the worst, creates a volatile information space, regardless of where the underlying truth ultimately lies.
There have been reports, yeah, that you and Kim don't really talk at the moment. She's distancing herself from you because of the stuff you've been saying was getting controversy. Is that true?
I mean, John Legend is distancing himself from me and buying more Christmas sweaters in the middle of the spring also. So I'm not saying that, they're making the right decisions. She's being influenced, but I guarantee you what's not finna happen, we're not finna see her in one of them John Legend Christmas sweaters no time soon.
But do you talk to her? Are you still in touch with her?
Don't you think it's like funny to make a joke out of stuff sometimes? Don't you think God has a sense of humor?
Of course.
But watch this. God, when I got married, I bought this house. I did this tour and spent all the money I had on this house to surprise Kim and give her this house that she wanted, that Lisa Marie Presley used to own. And then I got the house, and then I put all this money into renovation. And then there goes the neighborhood. Drake moves down the street 5 blocks, and that's when I knew God was funny. But watch, this is where God is even funnier. Here goes Louis C.K. Part 2 level, because Louis C.K. is the funniest man alive. Uncancel him now, right? And he was funnier before he's canceled because all he would do is type of jokes that you get canceled on, right? I got an office and outside of Crenshaw, in an opportunity zone, and this office, 57,000 square foot office, is the one that Tucker Carlson came to visit me at. And I look out the window, and whose office is being built? A brand new one. The Skims office. It's who's writing this stuff? You know what I'm saying? God is funny. So that's the thing. We always gotta be we gotta be funny. We gotta have a sense of humor,
But yeah, let me ask you.
There's a lot. Yeah.
But are you sad that you're getting divorced? Are you sad the relationship came to an end?
That happened 2 years. We got the divorce 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're.
Are you actually?
We've been got divorced.
Yeah. I mean, let me rephrase that. Are you sad that you're no longer together? That you're divorced?
We'll always be together. She dresses exactly like me. What do you mean? My kids are me. There's no person that she'll ever get with that will influence her more than God and then her priest on earth, which is me.
So where does this leave us? A shipment linked to a globally recognized brand. A company that has been officially cleared of wrongdoing. A driver who was convicted and sentenced. And a former husband who has, for years, made public claims about the same family and the systems around them. Taken together, these threads do not form a single coherent narrative. There is no definitive connection, and no evidence that turns them into a unified explanation. That is the honest conclusion, even if it is not a satisfying one. What can be stated with confidence is more straightforward. Kim Kardashian has built a business empire of significant scale and visibility. That level of global exposure inevitably increases the likelihood that a brand's name will appear in contexts entirely outside its control. Large, legitimate supply chains are routinely exploited by organized criminal networks precisely because legitimacy itself can provide cover. At the same time, Kanye West's public statements reflect a mix of personal grievances around custody and co-parenting, alongside increasingly expansive and often unverified claims that have drawn widespread criticism. The difficulty for audiences is that these two realities, documented business complexity on one hand and highly contested personal allegations on the other, often become entangled in public discourse. Perhaps the more important question is not whether any individual is guilty of wrongdoing based on these incidents, but whether the systems that move goods, capital, and influence at this scale are transparent enough that anyone involved can fully understand how their name, brand, or reputation may be used once it enters global circulation.